Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to take a deep dive into what it means to be a court clerk.
I'm excited to be here.
We've got some really fascinating information from RoleCatcher. They're doing some really cool stuff with AI to help people with their careers.
Yeah, it's incredible how AI is changing the game for job seekers.
Totally. Now, when I think court clerk, I'll admit the first thing that pops into my head is someone who mainly handles paperwork, files and forms and all that.
Right, stereotypical image.
Exactly. And of course, announcing the judge, all rise.
Of course.
But I have a feeling there's much more to it than that.
Oh, absolutely. That classic image just scratches the surface. Court clerks are actually the backbone of our judicial system. Their work is incredibly demanding, but it's also surprisingly rewarding.
So let's unpack that demanding part a little bit. I was blown away when I saw the sheer variety of tasks that court clerks handle.
It's really quite impressive.
It goes way beyond just paperwork. They're doing legal research, drafting opinions, even preparing briefs for judges.
Exactly. They're the vital link between the court itself and everyone involved. The lawyers, witnesses, the public, you name it.
Wow. I hadn't even considered that aspect of it. That's a lot of responsibility.
Absolutely. Think about it. A court clerk might have to explain a really complicated legal decision to someone with absolutely no legal background.
Oh, wow.
That takes some serious communication skills.
You're not kidding? That requires a whole other level of understanding and empathy. You're dealing with people who might be stressed, confused, even angry.
Absolutely. You need a high level of emotional intelligence to do this job well. Imagine you might have to explain to a family why a certain ruling was made, or help someone navigate the court system during an incredibly difficult time in their lives.
That human element really comes across in what we read from RoleCatcher. It
Definitely.
really highlights how this job can be incredibly rewarding for the right person.
For sure.
But speaking of unexpected things I read in the source material, did you know that technology plays a huge role in the work of a court clerk these days?
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the things I find most fascinating.
Really?
It's amazing how technology is transforming the legal field, just like it is so many other industries.
Oh,
Today's court clerks have to be comfortable with digital court reporting, electronic filing systems, these massive legal research databases.
so it's not just about managing physical files anymore.
Not at all. It's about mastering all these complex software systems.
Wow. So on top of everything else, you need to be pretty tech savvy to be a successful court clerk today.
You got it. It adds a whole other layer of complexity to this already very multifaceted role.
Okay, so we've established that being a court clerk is anything but simple.
Definitely not.
Let's dive into some of the pros and cons of this career path. One of the biggest pros that jumped out at me from the RoleCatcher information was job security,
Right, that's a big one.
which makes perfect sense when you think about it. The legal system isn't going anywhere anytime soon, right?
Exactly. And that's a huge draw for a lot of people, especially in today's job market. Courts need qualified people to keep things running smoothly, so there's a certain level of stability that you don't find in every profession.
That's definitely reassuring to hear, especially these days.
Yes, definitely.
But on the flip side, the source material also mentioned the potential for burnout due to high stress levels.
Yeah, that's something to be mindful of for sure.
Given the level of responsibility and the often emotionally charged environment, I can see how that could take a toll.
It's true. You're dealing with sensitive cases, difficult emotions, day in and day out, that can definitely wear on you over time. And it's important to remember, these are real people's lives we're talking about, with real consequences at stake.
It's a good reminder that while there's a lot of stability in this field, it's not without its challenges.
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance.
For sure. So we've talked about the demanding nature of the job, the emotional intelligence required, the tech skills involved, the job security, and the potential for burnout. But what about the actual work itself? Is it generally considered to be varied and interesting, or is there a risk of it becoming repetitive and even boring?
That's a great question, and it's something that a lot of people are curious about when they're considering this career path. The source material actually lists variety of tasks as one of the pros of being a court clerk, which aligns with everything we've been discussing.
Right, it makes sense given the sheer range of responsibilities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But interestingly, they also list limited creativity as a potential con.
Really? That's so interesting.
I know, right? It seems a bit counterintuitive at first.
It does make you wonder, is there really no room for creative problem solving as a court clerk?
That's where things get interesting. While it's true that court clerks operate within a defined structure of rules and procedures, There's actually a surprising amount of creative problem solving involved.
Really?
Oh yeah, every case is unique. Every single one presents its own set of challenges.
So a court clerk might need to think outside the box to track down some piece of information,
Right.
or maybe streamline a process to make things run more efficiently.
Exactly. Or even just find a way to explain a really complex legal situation in a way that someone with no legal background could understand.
It's like they're translators in a way.
That's a great way to put it.
Mm.
They have to bridge that gap between the complexities of the law and the everyday person who's caught up in the legal system.
It sounds like it takes a special kind of person to thrive in that kind of environment.
It really does. You need a good mix of analytical skills, people skills, and that ability to think on your feet and come up with creative solutions within the boundaries of the law.
Wow, it's pretty incredible when you think about it. They're like the unsung heroes of the courtroom.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about the day-to-day of being a court clerk, but what about the long-term career trajectory? What does advancement look like in this field?
Well, the RoleCatcher source actually outlines a pretty clear career path from entry level to those more senior positions.
They do.
Yeah, and they even include some really helpful real-world examples, which I think makes it a lot easier to envision yourself progressing in this role.
That's awesome. It's one thing to read a dry job description, but it's another thing entirely to see how real people have climbed the ladder.
Exactly. It
Yeah,
makes it more tangible, more achievable.
totally. So what are some of those typical steps along the way? It seems like a common path might be starting as an entry-level court clerk, then moving up to junior court clerk,
Right.
and then eventually reaching the level of senior court clerk.
Yeah, that's a pretty standard trajectory.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that it's not always linear.
Oh, good point.
You can kind of carve your own path within this field. You can specialize in certain areas if you want to, like case management or records management. Some court clerks even use this experience as a springboard to become paralegals or legal assistants.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize there were so many possibilities.
Yeah, you can even pursue a law degree if you really wanted to.
So it sounds like there's a lot of flexibility and room for growth within this one role.
Absolutely. It really caters to a variety of interests and goals.
That's amazing. And speaking of growth, one thing that the RoleCatcher source emphasized throughout was the importance of continuous learning in this field.
Oh, absolutely. Continuous learning is crucial.
They specifically mentioned things like legal research, writing, court procedures, keeping your knowledge up to date on all of that.
Right. And you can't forget about staying updated on any changes in laws, which happens more often than you might
Oh,
think.
for sure. You gotta stay sharp.
Exactly. It's a
Uh-huh.
field where you're constantly learning and evolving, which is great for someone who thrives on new information and those intellectual challenges.
I can see how that would be a major perk for the right person. It's definitely not a stagnant job.
Not at all. There's always something new to learn.
Well, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to RoleCatcher for a moment and touch on those AI-powered features that they offer.
Oh yeah, their AI tools are really impressive.
We briefly talked about their CV resume builder earlier, which sounds like a total game changer for job seekers.
It really does, especially for anyone who dreads writing resumes.
Ugh, tell me about it. It's the worst. But I wanted to hear a bit more about how it actually works. Could you elaborate on that?
Sure. So basically, you have this intelligent tool at your fingertips that can analyze a job description and pinpoint the most relevant skills and keywords that employers are looking for.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then it suggests how to best incorporate those keywords into your own resume.
Wow. So it's like having a secret weapon to get your resume past those applicant tracking systems that so many companies use these days.
Exactly. It's like having a personal resume writer, but way more affordable.
That's incredible. And I imagine it's a huge time saver, too.
Oh, absolutely. And for someone like our listener, who we know values efficiency and hates being bogged down in information overload, that could be a huge selling point.
Totally. And speaking of efficiency, RoleCatcher also has that in-review practice tool with AI feedback that you mentioned earlier.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's another really cool feature.
That one really caught my attention. It sounds incredibly useful, especially for anyone who gets nervous about job interviews.
It's understandable. It's a high-pressure situation. But with this tool, you can actually practice answering common interview questions and get personalized feedback from AI.
Seriously, AI can give you feedback on your interview skills.
Yep. It analyzes your responses, points out areas for improvement, even suggests stronger phrasing or delivery.
Wow, that's like having a personal interview coach available 24/7.
Right. No more awkward silences or rambling answers.
Sign me up. That's amazing. Wow, that's like having a personal interview coach available 24/7.
Exactly. It could be a game changer for anyone nervous about nailing that crucial first impression. And it aligns perfectly with RoleCatcher's mission of using AI to empower job seekers.
It's amazing to see how AI is changing the game in so many fields. And speaking of change, it makes me wonder about the future of the court clerk role itself. With all the talk about automation, where do you see this career path heading?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We've seen how technology is already transforming the role, and that trend is only going to accelerate.
So, are we talking about even more reliance on AI for tasks like legal research, document processing, maybe even scheduling?
Absolutely. AI has the potential to streamline so many of those routine tasks, freeing up court clerks to focus on more complex and nuanced aspects of their work. It's not about replacing human expertise, but about augmenting it with intelligent tools.
That makes sense. Less time bogged down by paperwork means more time to focus on the human side of things, right?
Exactly. They'll have more time to assist judges with those really complex legal matters or to guide and support individuals navigating the court system. That human touch is irreplaceable.
That's reassuring to hear. But it does raise another question. What happens to those court clerks whose primary responsibilities are eventually automated?
That's a valid concern, and there's no easy answer. It highlights the importance of ongoing training and upskilling in this field. As technology evolves, court clerks need to adapt, acquire new skills, and embrace a mindset of continuous learning to stay ahead of the curve.
So the future isn't about being replaced by AI, but about evolving alongside it. It's about leveraging these new tools to enhance your existing skills and expertise.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's that synergy between human capability and technological advancement that will define the future of this role.
That's an exciting way to think about it, not just for the legal field, but for any career path, really.
Absolutely. We're all navigating this evolving landscape together.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave our listeners with this final thought. As AI becomes more integrated into our legal system, how do we ensure it's used ethically and responsibly? What role will court clerks play in shaping that future?
That's a question worth pondering for all of us.
It certainly is. And a huge thank you to you for joining me on this deep dive into the world of court clerks. It's been enlightening to say the least.
The pleasure was all mine.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has provided you with valuable insights and maybe even sparked some new ideas. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.